while your day is winding down. They're just getting started. This is South Coast Tonight with Chris McCarthy and Marcus Farrow. They've got you covered on all the news of the day, from local issues to politics on both sides of the aisle. This is the place where the movers and shakers come to be heard, to listen, and where they're held accountable. This is South Coast Tonight on WBSM.
Welcome to South Coast Tonight. I'm Marcus Farrow. Just adjusting some of the volume here. One day I'll get good at this. But joining me for the 9 o'clock hour is Fairhaven Selectboard Vice Chair Leon Correy. Hey, Leon.
Hey, Marcus. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining me this evening.
Did you go watch Boomerang after the last time I was here?
No, I didn't. I was just thinking about that. And no, unfortunately, I did not. I'll watch it after the show tonight. So Leon, you're vice chair of the select board. There's been a lot of goings on in town. Tell us about some things that you think are important.
Well, first of all, I am a black man, so Black History Month is important.
Of course.
There's some things going on, and so I don't want to say too much, but I will talk about, there was the MLK breakfast last month. That was pretty cool. And finding out that, and I might mess up his name, but that Dr. Jabri Kazan, is
Bill
local.
Kazan, yeah. I had him on the show. Yeah.
I didn't really know he was local. Mm-hmm. And so it's just super cool that you have somebody who, transcends politics, transcends everything, and is a pivotal member in history. A lot of the things that we have, we owe to his willingness to just sit there and take a beating. We have that person local is really cool. So I'm excited for an event that might include him coming up.
So Jabril Kazan, for people who don't know, is one of the Greensboro Four. He sat at one of the people that sat down at the lunch counter in the early 60s. And started that movement. He sat at the whites only lunch counter with four other members. He was a college student at the time, I believe. And, here we are, and that's in large part due to the work of Jabril Kazan. Yeah, I had him on my Saturday show when I had my Saturday shows. A very interesting guy for sure. You were actually at the and we see your calls on the line. We'll take them in a minute at 508-996-0500. But you were actually at the Rasan Hall speech at the MLK Day speech in New Bedford. I told him, I had him on Friday. I told him I was going to make it. I wasn't able to go, unfortunately. But how was that speech? I know Mr. Hall's a pretty good speaker.
Yeah, it was great. I hadn't heard him speak up until that point, so I thought he was great. Went in there with no expectations, and I was really impressed. He and I spoke after, and might be able to work together at some point.
Cool.
But I think it was just his message around people working together, where we are, and he had a message, and I just really appreciated the fact that he was able to tie it in, to the progress that we've made, and the work that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. did. And the fact that another person who was local, educated locally, and he talked about that as well. So it was also just great to have that many people in the room, together. Fairhaven was represented. Jessica Fidalgo was on the committee, on the MLK breakfast committee. So she was one of the people who put that together. And then there were a few of us from Fairhaven who were in the crowd, and it was funny because none of us knew we were there until we all ran into each other.
Right.
And so, it was fun.
That's
cool. It was a great event.
We got a call on the line. Let's take it.
Yeah.
Good evening. You're live.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, what's up?
So I got a question for the the vice chair?
Yeah, Selectman Correy.
Selectman Correy, okay. I'm a Fairhaven resident. I don't know how much you know about the water and sewer bills here in Fairhaven. I don't know if you're familiar with that department, but I'm curious to find out why we're paying almost double for our sewer, and the water is almost 2 times less than the sewer, when we have our own sewer facility plant right here in Fairhaven. And I'm also curious if you know why we have windmills and why aren't we seeing anything in relation to the electricity bills here in Fairhaven.
I mean, those windmills have been up there for quite some time. I sit in the BPW, so water sewer is more my wheelhouse than Leon's. But here's the thing with I can't speak to exactly why you're seeing double the sewer. We have gotten a significant amount of public funding from the state and funding in general. We took out a bonding for upgrades to our sewer treatment plant. There is a collective effort by us in the Mattapoisett River Valley, because we get our water supply from the Mattapoisett River along with Marion, Rochester, and Mattapoisett, to upgrade our facilities. So I can get a better answer for you on why the bills have gone higher. I do know that when this vote came before us, we were talking about, we upgraded the water meter system so that, everybody got their water meters upgraded so that, there'd be a lot better response time, a lot easier for us to check to see if there is a leak somewhere and report it and be able to fix it, be able to offer to fix it for Fairhaven residents. There was, I know, a increase in the for water rates for the ratepayers that we had voted to, I believe in 2020, we had voted to stave off for a year, but I think some of that had to do with the water meter upgrades that we're making, which is going to save us money on the back end on that. In terms of the sewer bills, though, I can't speak to that. I can't give you a great answer, but I can find out and give you a better answer later.
And just to chime in on that, the windmills, they've been here actually since before I even lived in this town, so I had nothing to do with them being here.
The windmills supposedly save like $200,000 a year or something, or generate like $200,000 a year in electricity, something like that. But frankly, when the windmills
for the town or for the residents of the town.
It's kind of I'm not sure. I'll be honest with you.
What I will do is actually I'll take that to the board and have earlier in the year we had actually looked into something similar relative to cannabis in the town and looking to see, some of the revenue benefits. So you can just take that and actually I'll bring that up in a meeting that the next meeting we have, we can actually just put some of those numbers out there.
All right. And are the meetings public?
Yes.
Can the residents come to these meetings?
You can attend virtually or you can come in person. They are the first and third Monday every month. If there is a holiday on Monday, they're typically on Tuesday at 6:30 at Town Hall. Also on Facebook, Fairhaven TV, and Channel 18.
You got one coming up in about a week and a half?
Yes. Yeah, we had one this past Monday, so the next one will be in about a week and a half.
Okay. Yeah, and the water meter fee too is $50. It went up $50 to $50 now. I think I believe it was with the old meters. I believe it was either 30 or 35, if I'm not mistaken. But now that you put the new meters in, they bumped it up. I'm looking at. Go ahead.
Those meters are definitely going to save us money on the front end. I know in my condo, I had some sort of leak or something going on where I didn't really like the Fairhaven, the town department wasn't able to pick on it for up on it for 4 or 5 days, and I ended up getting a pretty hefty bill that cycle. But now that those meter readers are going to be very efficient. They're going to be able to track when there's a leak, and they're going to be the water department's going to get notice of it immediately and be able to respond on that. So it's definitely going to save money on the back end. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to attend that meeting in about a week and a half, 2 weeks. I'm gonna have to go to it because I'm gonna bring a copy of my water bill too, because I mean it's outrageous. I'm paying almost $1,000 each cycle. I got a water bill.
No, I will say I mean, you're welcome to come to the meeting, but there's not much we'll be able to answer relative to your water bill. You would actually want to go to the public works meeting. That's more
for the public works meeting, and we have one on Monday at 5 o'clock. There's a public comment section that usually happens at the end of the meeting. So if you probably if you don't want to hang around the Board of Public Works meeting all night, you can log into Zoom, and probably towards the end of that meeting there will be a public open forum public comment section. You can bring that concern. And we'll be there with the superintendent, with the chair of the BPW, and be able to answer that question.
And you got that meeting coming up. You said when on Monday?
Monday at 5:15.
5:15 at the town hall?
No, it's going to be at the Board of Public Works, but you can also log in remotely. If you go to Fairhaven TV, not Fairhaven TV, if you go to Fairhaven.com, Fairhaven, like the town of Fairhaven website, and you just Google Fairhaven Public Works, you'll be able to find it.
Okay. All right, cool. I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. It's good public service radio. It's fun. Called in for a question for you, and it ended up being kind of for me.
Exactly.
But all right, so Leon, 508-996-0500 is how you get in the program. But Leon, we were talking about some events that you had in town for Black History Month. You had the MLK breakfast. You spoke with Attorney Rasan Hall at that MLK Day speech. Is there anything that in particular you guys got going on?
There's so the Belonging Committee, which I'm really proud of. They're doing a great job. I was kind of worried.
You founded that committee.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was worried that, with me, I guess the downside of me being on the select board is that it's no longer my committee. Although it was never my committee, but my influence isn't the same. And so I had to sit back, and I wanted to actually let it develop on its own. And so they've been doing a great job. Recently actually lost the chair. Kylie moved out of Fairhaven, so she's no longer the chair, but I think Jessica Fidalgo will be running it. And there is an event coming up. Right now it is on the 23rd, and I think that's when Dr. Kazan will be speaking. And we have a proclamation for him, and I'll be introducing him and reading the proclamation. So
cool. Yeah, that'll be exciting. I'm really excited for that. Yeah, that's really interesting, and it's cool that we have such a very prominent local, civil rights leader here in the Greater New Bedford area that's able to bring those experiences to everybody here. That's really neat. So we got another call on the line, pretty popular, Leon. Good evening, you're live.
I have a question for the selectman as well. I don't know if this is in his wheelhouse, but is the town of Fairhaven planning on hiring a building commissioner anytime soon?
Actually, so
that I've had a permit request out. I think coming on 6 months, and they basically last time they told me they're not issuing permits because they don't have a commissioner.
Okay, so that does fall to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been first of all, apologize. One thing I will say, kind of as a plug, any kids, since Marcus Farrow Radio is hot amongst the kids. Any kids get into municipal anything because there's a need. But the reality is, we've kind of gone back and forth. We've gone under agreement, and then it was just a big hiring period. So people kind of started getting more and more better and better offers. And so right now we are actually running pretty well. We have two that are sharing the duties. We're sharing duties with some other towns. And so we have a couple of interims who should be able to get to it. If
so they will be issuing permits. So
yes.
Sure.
Yeah. So
right.
what I would do is I would follow up. Just in kind of the shuffle and the changing of people. Some people might forget. It might be an oversight. So, personally, my belief is to always just follow up. And if you want to reach out to me, after, shoot me an email or what have you. It's lcorrey@fairhaven-ma.gov. And I'll help you as best I can, or at least steer you in the right direction.
Great. Thanks. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Yep. Have a good one.
You also. Have a good night.
Leon, you're gonna have to come back more often. I've actually, honestly, I've been when we're first getting this. You've been on before, but when we were first getting this program started, there were people saying, "Hey, can you talk about some Fairhaven stuff too? And because we've got a really good Fairhaven audience, so we're gonna have to continue those conversations. So that's good to know. I know that's been something I've been hearing about as well, the building commissioner. But you said you've got an interim for people who may have a permit or want to put a permit, want to apply for a permit. You have an interim person there, or 2 interim people that should be able to fulfill those duties until you hire a more permanent one.
Yeah, I mean, people have a lot of questions. People stop me in the store. People stop me in the street. I've been flagged down. And, I just feel like people will apologize for the times they call me. I'm like, this is what I signed up for. So, I mean, it certainly has its moments.
I did this to myself.
Yes, this is what I signed up for. So don't ever apologize for calling me or anything like that, because I kind of came in with this expectation.
So, what are some of the other stuff? What are some of the other things that you're working on over there? So much, right? Well,
no, it's just, I get calls, and I've said before, I think local government is a little bit too, the perception is that it's, more, I don't know, rigid than it is. And the reality is most of the stuff that you get is cat in a tree, neighbors are bothering me and what have you. And so kind of the hot topic right now is the bicycle kids. They kind of go away, come back, go away, come back.
Yeah.
And it's...
No, those kids are a problem.
Yeah, and it's the battle between kids being kids, as people call it, and it's like excessive. How dare you? These kids are terrible. The worst thing happened, and it's how dare you bother my kid? There's like so much to it, so many elements.
No, listen, Leon. I was driving down Route 6 not that long ago, and in Fairhaven, in front of Fairhaven High School, and there were kids on a bicycle driving the wrong way on Route 6. I beep at them, and one kid very, very smugly looks at me and gives me the peace sign. Like this. Looks at me and gives me the peace sign. So if you have to order Chief Myers to throw them in jail. Just kidding. I'm kidding.
We're trying to find some way to empower him to do something, because I was told, like, Chief Myers, it was in his personal vehicle one day, and he said something to the kid, because the kid was like in the middle of the street over by Rogers School, and the kid told him to like go F himself.
Really?
To the chief
of police, yeah.
And he was more stunned than anything else.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of that. So we're laughing, but it's also, to some people, it's really bothersome and really disrespectful.
Yeah.
And, people don't, you don't want to have to deal with it.
Well, it's dangerous too.
Yeah.
It really is dangerous. When you're riding your bike in certain places and just sort of cutting people off or just going head on in traffic, it's a problem. They're not concerned for their safety, but we are, as well as our own safety, and not wanting to run over kids. So I just don't know. It's kind of a difficult thing to tackle.
As much as nobody, and I mean nobody, like the "it takes a village" mantra, the reality is that it takes a lot of adults to protect kids from themselves.
So they have to throw the parents in jail.
No.
I'm just kidding.
But it's like, kids think they're invincible. We were all kids once. We thought we were invincible. And some of them are like, you can't do anything to me. Like, I'm a kid. You can't hit me. You can't whatever me. You can't discipline me. And so it's just that balance. And so that's probably the number one phone call I get. Yeah. And in the last meeting, we were also talking about some of the goals. And one of them that came up was the dog park. And it was like, that's another thing. And, that a lot of people have talked about. It's like, we want a dog park. So it's a lot of little things like that where you're really, your job is to just, serve the people and try to, make the town the best it can be, in their image.
People need to be asking me for a dog park, right? Isn't that something they're asking?
That's true, actually.
We're the park commissioners. I'm one of the park commissioners in town. Where can there be a dog park?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of. Probably. Field? Yeah, that's one spot. I think behind Rogers School, potentially you can just kind of take a little corner.
Don't bring up Rogers School.
Yeah, but the park area is supposed to stay a park, and so could potentially use that. Some of the land, I would imagine, at some point, someday, the Atlas TAC building will be usable in some capacity, and I bet you some of that land could be allocated as a dog park.
Yeah.
You can't live on it, but it's certainly usable, for certain things. And so there's plenty of places that if we got to the point where we could and we had the budget and, the proper planning, sure, it can happen someday. But, I think there's a list of things that just kind of keep pushing it down at this point.
Of course. Hey, listen, let's take a break. We're here with Selectman Leon Correy. This is South Coast Tonight.
Station.
I'm Marcus Farrow. We're here with Fairhaven Selectman Leon Correy, and we're here for the hour. So we'll take your calls at 508-996-0500. That's how you can get in the program this evening. Do you, sitting as chair, first of all, we talked about this last time, or as vice chair, we talked about this last time where you came into the scene on local politics pretty out of nowhere, right? Mm. And just a little recap, because I think your campaign was really impressive. So, you ran a good campaign. You hit all the fundamentals. Where did you originally learn to campaign?
So this is kind of one of those things when you go back to your childhood, because as a first generation, I have family members who weren't necessarily the most productive members of society, we'll say.
Okay.
I talked about my father spending a lot of time being incarcerated. And although not necessarily the greatest, the thing I learned is the ability to hustle. An uncle, my biological father, my stepfather who raised me, and I don't call him my stepfather. I'm just using these terms for the purposes of the radio for everybody to understand. So Pop, please don't get upset. But, I learned how to hustle. And, from all of the things that people kind of viewed like I have to do to get by, I learned how to hustle. So it's something that and then the fact that I'm just comfortable being me to people is kind of how I got here. And so I took the thing that I was good at, which is kind of presenting myself to people and presenting my case. It's how I got into business school when I was applying to what is now Booth. At University of Chicago's Graduate School of Business. I used my ability to present myself and to sell myself as kind of the catalyst to just keep me going and presenting myself to everybody I could. I had a guy early in my career who told me, you are a field sales guy. You're not a behind the phones guy. You present yourself best in person. Once people get to know you, they just know that you're not lying to them. They're comfortable with you. They like you. And so, do that and be that guy. And so I just took that and kind of used it as my campaign strategy. It wasn't deep. It wasn't anything special. It was just as grassroots gets.
Yeah. It was a sales pitch and you were the product.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's basically what campaigning is. You did a lot of door-to-doors. You hit every door in every precinct, I think. And then you came really close in that first recall election, and then you ended up, pulling further ahead in the general election later in that spring election that came along. We talked about this last time, but I think it's worth bringing up. It's Black History Month. You're talking about some of the events that you guys have that you've attended. What you've got going on with Dr. Drabil Kazan. You being where you are in local politics, you sit on the executive board of elected board in Fairhaven. You're the vice chair. What does that mean? What does that mean for you? During this time in Black History Month. And just in general, it's you never. Dave Chappelle did a sketch on being the first black anything must just be absolutely terrible, and to some degree it certainly has its moments. But I will say it's a legacy. It's about my family. It's about my kids. My kids will have something that they can hold on to forever. They can go down Huddleston and see a crosswalk and a walk sign. And my dad played a part in doing that, in a name that didn't necessarily, the difference is legacy. I didn't, it didn't really have one. Yeah.
I didn't come in with one. And so now I'm being part of building one for my children, for my family. And my family across the board is proud, and really I downplay it. I don't really think it's as big a deal as they make it out to be.
Yeah.
But, it is cool to be part of history. It was cool the first time I saw it, I think, when Chris Richards had put it in the archive online, and I saw it, and it was just like, oh, wow. Because it wasn't something I really thought about, and it's not something that's going to get you up every day like, ooh, I'm going to be the first black anything. That's not going to get you, going door to door in the rain. That's not enough. But, legacy, making the town the best it can be for my kids, and, being someone that my kids will be able to walk around town in 20, 30 years and be able to, and people say, your dad was a good guy. Yeah. And he did the best he could for the town, is really important to me. And so that's what keeps me going, and that's what it all means to me.
We're speaking with Leon Correy. He's a Fairhaven Selectman. Yeah. I mean, do you think it was it was a legitimate thing that people were talking about, unfortunately, like, is Fairhaven in 2021 or 2022 in a position where they're going to elect a black person or a person of color to the select board? It was unfortunately a thing that was mentioned. Was that something that you had in the back of your mind when you were running this campaign?
No. I mean, some people mentioned it. It was actually a bigger deal outside of Fairhaven, like when I would go and get my haircut in New Bedford, and somebody would say, "Oh, you're that guy?" Yeah. You really think you're going to get elected in Fairhaven? And then I would hear their stories, about what they went through driving through Fairhaven and what have you. But it was people were more interested in it from that capacity than as far as it like having any impact on my campaign. In fact, I think I had said at one point, I didn't feel as though it wasn't something that I talked about in the campaign because it wasn't important to me. It wasn't why I was running, and I felt like I was the best candidate, period, not the best black candidate. So it wasn't something that I ever spoke about. But the reality was it's still there. It was the elephant in the room. Everybody knew it was, it was there, but I still certainly wasn't going to run with it as my platform. I mean, vote for me. I'm going to be the first black guy. Yeah. I mean, the campaign you ran was, it was really good. It was, like you said, it was just going door to door and getting in front of people. And that's what local campaigns are. You got to ask people for their vote. Right. And that's what you did. And they all said yes. So, we're speaking with Leon Correy. I'll tell you what, let's take a break now and we'll be right back.
1420 WBSM, where freedom of speech lives. Your voice heard right now on South Coast Tonight. Call 508-996-0500 or send an app chat message on the WBSM app. Now, back to Chris and Marcus.
Leon, you're on the off-air podcast now. You're enshrined. We have an off-air podcast. It's kind of like the Nixon tapes, and if we ever release it, it's going to do really well. Okay. But we're here with Selectman Leon Correy. You talked about, this is interesting. You said, you talked about being elected as a black man in Fairhaven. It was something that, wasn't part of your campaign. In fact, you said, if it was a part of your campaign, it would have actually been. It would have been adverse to what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I just feel like because I just felt like I was the best person for the job at the time. Bringing race into the equation, I think would, people are afraid of it. Let's be honest. And so, like, I am a black man. I see it every day in the mirror. Like, there's nothing I can do about it, but it's also not something that, I need to leverage. People will learn, and I want people to understand, certain things. I want people to understand the experiences, and I want people to open their mind. But if I'm throwing it in your face, you're not going to digest it. And so if I can be, I've said before, if you have any platform at all, no matter how big or small, you have an obligation to, get whatever message it is out there that you believe, and kind of be useful. Right. And so, that's a person I like to kind of see myself as a safe place to be able to have certain conversations.
Well, so you talked about, we're speaking with Fairhaven Selectman Leon Correy. You talked about, you talked about legacy, building a legacy. What exactly did you mean by that?
Yeah. So, I think it was in Game of Thrones, and I think it was, Tywin Lannister said, legacy is this thing that, like, your kids, that you leave your kids when you're dead, or something like that. And it's just the thing that, people have, like, that you leave people when you're dead. And it is kind of that thing. Like, the reality is black people haven't really, and I can't speak for all people. I can't speak for all people of color. I know me as a black man, like, we haven't really had a legacy. Our legacy, was slavery for 400 years. And so it's, you had a little bit of other people had a little bit of a head start there and establishing that legacy. So now that we are catching up, I want my kids to have these things. There were conversations that I wasn't able to be part of when I was in college because, I went to a school like BC where, kids came from money and what have you. And so their parents were able to talk about different things and show them different experiences. And their grandparents and great grandparents were in the professional world and what have you. And I didn't have that, but my kids will, and my grandkids and my great grandkids and whatever. And also providing other people with access to an example. I didn't have growing up, look, Providence wasn't, certainly wasn't like Compton or the South Bronx or what have you, but, I didn't have any black teachers. The only black teachers I actually had were like a substitute here and there. And so I didn't have that, as far as there weren't a lot of black professionals. And so the people who had money when I was growing up, you had people on TV, doctors, lawyers, and what have you. And then you had, the hustlers in the neighborhood. And that was really all you had. So the example, you really had to kind of see beyond that, see beyond everything in front of you. And in an era where you didn't have the internet, you didn't have access to as much as you do now. And to be able to see that and kind of what drove me was, I was really close to my mother and I wanted to give her a better life. Like I used to say every day, I'm just going to take care of my mother. And so although she passed and I was able to still get to a certain point, that took away a little bit of the motivation and the catalyst for me to even be productive.
Right.
But just the desire, having kids now gives some of that back, gives, that ability, that desire to leave something for somebody to be proud of going forward so that they can be part of those conversations and have a story and, have a family story, even. That's what legacy is to me.
We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. We're here with Selectman Leon Correy here on South Coast Tonight.
The WBSM app is everywhere.
We're here with Leon Correy, who's joined us for the hour. Leon, what else is on your mind? We got about 5 minutes left.
Oh, man.
First thing.
First thing, since we were watching, we were kind of just talking about Tyree Nichols.
Okay.
And I actually, you know what? I will say something because it's actually something that I've wanted to say for a while. And, besides the fact that, we were just talking about how the officers there there's been swifter justice than in other cases for obvious reasons.
It's the quickest round of indictments I've ever seen. Yeah.
At least obvious to me. But I will say something, in another area, and I might catch some heat for it, but whatever. But I will say I appreciate the Fairhaven Police Department.
Yeah, me too.
They do an excellent job. Mm-hmm. Their interaction has been. I actually had a conversation with the chief before I was even anybody, just talking about the need for more community involvement and kind of interacting with the people a little bit better. I felt the firefighters always did a better job of that. And they have gotten better. I think their interaction with the people is great, or is at least much better than it was even a year ago. And maybe some of that was COVID, but who knows? I think they've just gotten more aware, and they've always seemed respectful when they interact with people.
Yeah.
You don't really get the hotheads or, the as you'll call them, the punks who just wanted to do it because maybe they were stuffed in the locker when they were kids. They're really professional. They're great to interact with, and so because I chair the Commission on Disability in town. We had invited Kevin Cobza to one of our meetings about a year ago. And he had some great ideas that we were able to hit the ground running on. We were able to get some seatbelts, these autism seatbelt covers. We got them actually from Sheriff Hodgson's office at that time. But he'd started a site where people can register their loved one, or someone can register themselves if they have certain disabilities that will show up on their database, so that officers know how to respond to certain certain issues. So I think they've been great to collaborate to collaborate with, for sure. So I agree with you. I think we're fortunate to have a good group here in terms of our law enforcement officers, and I know a lot of them are listening as well. So we appreciate the work you're doing. Yeah, we have a good town, and we have a well-run town. And people may bicker and have their issues and what have you, but the foundation of our town, you know, and it was before me, I can't take credit for it. And like really nobody on the select board or any of the boards right now can. But we have a well-run, a really good town with really good people. I mean, there are circumstances, but when you look at the things that we actually are bothered by and are working on, they could be much worse. There are a lot of first world problems. And so, there's still problems and you still want to fix them. But, you know, when you look at them relative to the things that some other towns are going through that are even similar to us, we have a great town. And so if we didn't, you know, not only would I have not run, but I wouldn't live here.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
You know, and so, you know, I got involved because I found Fairhaven to be a great town, and I wanted to just keep it that way, and make some of the things that I thought could be better. It wasn't, you know, early on there was some people were saying I had an agenda and I hated this town and I wanted to make it a woke town. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. But
I still don't know what that means.
Yeah, it was like, what is a woke town? But no, I really do. I like this town. I love this town. I love the people in this town. My experiences have been great. And so I just wanted to kind of do my part in being in the town, you know, and doing something different.
Leon, we appreciate your time this evening. If people want to get in touch with you, where can they reach out to you?
So you can email me at lcorrey, LCORREY at fairhaven-ma.gov. You can stop in town hall. My cards are in there. I am also on Facebook and Instagram. You can find me, Leon for Fairhaven, pretty much anywhere. And so, I am accessible. I respond to everybody. You know, someone said they saw me at the mobile station and they didn't want to say anything because they thought I was busy. It's like, no, go ahead, say hi. It happens all the time. Say hi to me, not my wife, because she does